Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and this video is about the difference between a push putt, a spin putt, and a spush putt, as well as how to figure out which of those three putts is going to work best for you. Now, before I begin, I have several hundred free videos out, tutorial videos. They're always free. I want this to be accessible for everyone. However, if you want to support what I do, I do use Patreon. I probably haven't mentioned it in a year. I never think about it. But if this is helping you out, you can join for $7, $14, or $21 a month. If you do the $21 a month, you'll get a copy of my book, which basically means you just bought a copy of my book. There's no commitments month to month. So you could join for $21, get a copy of the book, cancel 5 minutes later. Totally cool with that. But anyways, click the link below if you think this helps. Okay, so starting with the push putt. The thing that defines a push putt is a putt where the shoulder is the only hinge being used on your arm. Now, it does not mean your wrist and elbow have to be straight. Your wrist can be cocked, your elbow can be bent, some combination of these. What matters is the moment the putt begins, the wrist and the elbow are locked in place and the only hinge is your shoulder. You go down and you go back up. The second type of putt is a spin putt. And a spin putt is a putt where the elbow and the wrist are the primary hinges. Now I say primary because on most spin putts, the shoulder is going to get used some. However, on a spin putt, most of the power comes from your elbow and your wrist. Now, it does not matter if you're putting from up here, from down here, across your body. If the power comes from the elbow and wrist, primarily, that's a spin putt. And the third type of putt is a spush putt. And a spush putt is a hybrid between the two, meaning the shoulder is the primary hinge. Most of the power is going to come from the shoulder, down the pole and back up. However, with a spush putt, you allow yourself to give it a little bit of elbow and or wrist right at the point of release to give it a little more spin. Now, with all three of those putts, there's pros and there's cons, and I'm going to go over those with you. So starting with the push putt, the biggest pro is you're going to hit your line. Because you're not using these two hinges and you're going down the pole and up the pole, hitting your line is easiest with a push putt. It's almost like throwing horseshoes. I mean, you're not swinging it outside of your body, but when you play horseshoes, you never miss right or left by a foot. Line isn't an issue because nothing is going right or left. So a push putt is going to hit the lines. Now, the challenging part of a push putt, first off, is getting the height right, because you got the lines, but you need to release at the right time to get the height. Also with push putts, it's hard to generate a lot of power. Now, if you've been doing this for years, you can get a fair amount of power just using this hinge, but especially when you're new, it's hard. Every push putter in the world at some point has a distance that when they get outside of that distance, they have to add some elbow or wrist to get it there. This is just one of the trade-offs, but all push putters have to add elbow or wrist at a certain distance. The other drawback to a push putt, it's not the best putt in the wind. I always joke that there are no push putters in Kansas. There are probably a couple of them, but it is really hard. If you play somewhere where it's windy, you don't really want to be a push putter. You need to give it more spin. The second type of putt is the spin putt. And the spin putt has the advantage of you're generally going to get the right height. Because the elbow and wrist are the hinge and the disc is being pulled along this plane, the height is the easier part. However, an early or late release means you miss right and left. So the trade-off is you get the height, but it's harder to hit the line. Now, a benefit to a spin putt is you can get more power. Another benefit to a spin putt is it's a better putt in the wind. The trade-off to all of that is this little tiny hinge right here, and this is just geometry. but in a very short amount of time, your wrist travels a fair number of degrees, which means you have to be so precise on your release that the learning curve of good precision is hardest with a spin putt. Doesn't mean you can't get good at it. It just means it's a steeper learning curve to be more precise. So push putt and spin putts both have pros and cons. Now you might be thinking that a spush putt is the cure-all, because on a spush putt, you're going to paint the pole down and up with your shoulder, which means you're going to be generally hitting your lines, but then because you give it a little bit of elbow and wrist, you can hit the height. Both of those things are true. The trade-off is, because you're using elbow and wrist, you're not as precise with the line. Because your motion is down and up, you're not as precise with the height. So basically a spush putt allows you to be good with lines and good with heights. The other two putts allow you to be great with one, with the other one being a challenge. So based on those pros and cons, the best putt is all of them. Now this is strange because I usually teach there's a right and a wrong way to do things. This is one of the exceptions. And the reason I say this is that I never teach based on here's what I do, that's why you should do it. Instead, I think there's a consensus in most sports, if enough people play it, as to the best and worst ways to do things. Basically, the most effective ways to do things wins, and then that wins out. 10 million people play disc golf. If one of those three putts was more effective than the other two, we would have figured this out by now, and minus a couple outliers, all the top players would be doing it. It's just the way it works. That hasn't happened. And that tells me that's never going to happen. I mean, 10 million people is a large enough sample size. It's not like we're going to get to 20 million disc golfers and look back and be like, oh my God, we didn't know anything when only 10 million people did this, right? That's large enough. So all three of those putts will work, except in the wind, you don't want to push putt. Now, having said that, that does not mean all three are going to work for you. One of the things that I've observed is that most players don't just choose one over the other because it works better, but one of those putts doesn't feel right. It feels clunky, it feels awkward, your balance is off. What you need to do to figure out which of those is best for you is figure out which one feels the best. Now, it might seem like a wishy-washy answer, but actually this is a critical step in this. Go out and putt and just listen to your body. Don't listen to the results of the putt going in or not. Listen to how your body feels. Are you balanced? Is it feeling smooth? Is your movement comfortable? Do you feel like you have power? Can you repeat the motion? More than likely, one of those three putts is going to be yes, and the other two putts are going to be no. Now, if you're new, it doesn't mean any of the putts are going in all the time, but the one that feels right is the one that you are going to want to stick with. Don't just emulate a pro and do what they do. Instead, figure out which of those three putts is your style of putt. And then, by all means, go look at the pros that use your style of putt and emulate them. That's not a bad idea. But it has to start with which one of those three allows your body to move the way your body is built. Hope that helps everyone. Click the subscribe button, the whole reminder of the whole Patreon thing. I'll probably won't remember for another year. So if you're gonna do it now. But subscribe, like, and comment, and ring the bell. Thanks everyone.